Thank you for having me. I'm Stephen Burns. It's an honor to be here. I spoke all week at Photocon Hawaii, and then Don says, "Hey, our speaker canceled. You want to come and speak for our group?" I said, "Sure, it'll be kind of fun." Um, let's see what I have up here. I want to see if I have the proper folder. So I'm going to show you a little bit of who I am, why I'm here, what I've been doing. These are books that I have written over the years. They're internationally published. Photoshop Trickery and Effects is it's the very first one I started with. Every chapter is a complete, oops, it's kind of small there, huh? It's a complete, I got real, there we go, it's a little better. Every chapter is a complete tutorial on how I created some very cool artistic types of scenes. When I teach Photoshop, I'm teaching it from the standpoint that you understand the program. Photoshop is a tool. You want to be able to use it any way, in any direction that you deem to go, toward as an artist. Here, let me back up a little bit. Let me go over to some of the DVDs I've produced. Photoshop Cafe is my publisher. Here are some of the examples of DVDs that I've also produced. This is all using Photoshop techniques in terms of telling a story. Okay. Let me also share with you I'll start with the photography and then we'll go into the fine art work. Okay. So I teach Death Valley workshops every year. This is a shot from one of the sand dunes of Death Valley. This is from the Yosemite Valley workshop. Let's go ahead and pull this out of the way. The workshops are designed so that you improve your eye, you improve your composition, you improve your skills as a photographer. We have critique each day of the workshop, and we have a Photoshop class on the last day of the workshop. So this is one of the falls near Yosemite that we go to every year. So that's usually the day one of the class. Then we go into the valley. Let's come back into here, and there we go. So a shot of Death Valley, the salt flats. And right now, the salt flats don't exist because it's covered by a lake called Manly Lake. You guys probably heard about that. So this year, this April, we're going out to Death Valley, and Manly Lake is going to be on the agenda. This is something that rarely happens. The last time there was a lake in Death Valley was 2000, 2007, 2008, somewhere around there. And so, we expect it to be gone by the summer when it starts to heat up. So it's another shot, another example of just playing around with composition in the landscape. This was the Central Coast workshop. We go to some of the ghost towns there. We're along the coastline. We're based inside of Santa Cruz. A wonderful place to shoot. Incredible redwood forests. Death Valley again. This is the Death Valley Junction entering into the park. So this is the day there was a bunch of clouds in the sky, and that cloud was moving from left to right, and I saw it, so I decided to sit there and keep photographing. So I have about maybe 70 different shots of that cloud slowly moving from left to right, and when I got to that spot, that's what I wanted. So patience in photography. Having an eye is really critically important. Understanding what you're trying to capture, in other words, defining your primary point of focus is critical. If you're going to improve as an artist, if you're going to improve as a photographer, you have to learn to define your subject. No excuses. All right? We want to get away from being snapshot shooters. You want to start learning to interpret yourself, what you felt in your heart, and do it well by defining your primary point of focus. This is a Death Valley shot also. Worked in Death Valley. I'm going to show you just a little bit more of the portfolio, and then we're going to get into some Photoshop techniques. Another shot of Death Valley. Now, what you're looking at is a tiny, 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 tiny portion of that entire sand dune landscape. That landscape is busy as hell. So learning and this is part of the workshop, is when we critique each other's work each day, we learn to look at each other's work, help them define their subject better, help them to define the lighting better. The second day of the workshop, your compositions will improve, right? We're not just lifting the camera to our eye to take a picture. You're trying to define something emotional in your heart, the rhythm, the motion of life. Okay, another shot of Death Valley, a little black and white scene. I think this particular one I included. This was shot with a 4x5 camera. It's those old Bellows cameras. No,
Yeah.
that was what I used as a career photographer back in the late 80s and early 90s, way before digital existed. So I was trained in the dark room. Another example, this is a digital shot. Another example of Death Valley, learning to define the subject cleanly and clearly. You should not having things in the in your shot that don't matter or don't support your subject. Okay. Another example. You shouldn't feel like there's something that should be there, and you shouldn't feel like that there's something you need to take out. It should all work together. So when I'm teaching photography classes, when the student stands up and starts to show me their work and they start to explain to me what's going on in the work, or they try to convince me what they're trying to do, then they failed. Right? It shouldn't be any convincing. Just see it, and there it is. Let the user decide how they want to interpret it, but they get it. There's something there. Okay? So that's how we should strive to use our cameras. Get away from using your cameras like it's a cell phone, and use your cell phone as if it's a professional camera, because they both do the same thing. Understand composition, understand movement and flow. Another example, always enjoyed the sand dunes because it has such a very humanistic appeal to them. Some interesting, shading concepts of I shot this in the Central Coast. This is actually in a boat yard, and lots of dilapidated boats and ships all around me, and I'm playing around with light and shadow. Another example, abstraction. The same rules of composition apply. Do you guys talk about the rules of composition in this club? Yes.
Touch tones.
Only what?
Hushed tone.
Touch tones? Hush tones.
Quietly.
Quietly. Yeah, we talk. Yeah, so always have something your eye can go to. This is a fun one. This is a panoramic. This was made probably about 10, maybe 7 or 8 different shots stitched together vertically.
Only vertically?
Well, the question is, why vertically? Because we have a lot of megapixels going the length of the camera, the long side of the camera. So if I can stitch them together with the vertical part going top to bottom, then I'm getting more megapixels. Right? Death Valley again. One of the places we visit is the moving rocks, the racetrack. Right? Again, defining your subject. If the rocks are the primary point of focus, your background area becomes your secondary point of focus to support your rocks. Okay, we're almost done.
On the rocks. Is that one shot?
That's one shot. The question is, are the rocks just a single shot? Yes, this is. I'm basically on the ground and on my belly, literally on my belly. You think what? Can you guys tell me if this is a wide angle lens that I'm using or a telephoto?
Reality. Wow.
Yeah, he's right, telephoto. The Brocs are probably like that.
Wow.
They're big. They're big. Okay, another Central Coast shot. Okay, just to share with you a little bit of what I enjoy doing. All right, I like using abstraction as a compositional element. Another example, define the subject. All right, so you see it, there's no bullshit. It's right there. Another example, defining the composition, keeping it very simple. No overcomplication of your work. Should be very simple. Okay. All right. So, all right, let's go have some fun. I've got a presentation put aside for you guys tonight, and I'm going to talk about some interesting ways to use Photoshop to improve your photography. And I want to talk about some basic concepts of art that's going to help you to um, that's going to help you to see Photoshop a little bit differently. And let me find a particular, let's see, I'm looking for a particular folder. Give me a hot second here, as I thought it was in the beginning class folder. Yeah, here we go. I found it. All right. Okay, this is what we're going to do. We're going to talk about enhancing your work in Photoshop. I'm going to take this and I tell you what, let's look at it this way. One of our main problems as photographers is that we use color to enhance our work. Color is a crutch. Color gets in the way. There are two concepts to all art, whether you're doing painting or drawing. So let me ask you guys this. If you're going to prepare your canvas for a painting, what is the first thing you do? Well, speak up so I can hear you.
Gesso.
Well, besides gesso, what do you do? You sketch, right? We're sketching, right? What color is that sketch normally? Black, right? Black on white. Now, what do you do after that? After you get the sketch, what's the next thing you do? What was that? That's the sketching part, it's making the outline. What do you do after that?
Shading.
Shading. Excellent. What color is your shading? It's gray. That's right. You're in values. You're using values. That's our black and white information. One of our problems as photographers is that our camera gives us color from the get-go. So color is getting in our way of understanding what type of true value and techniques or textures actually in your image. It's getting in the way. You're looking at this and you're thinking this is fine. Another problem is you're getting a raw file from your camera. Your raw file does not give you your true vision. It's just giving you the basic information that the sensor saw when it took the picture. So we're going to go beyond this. So, two aspects to any painting, any drawing, any photograph: values and the other are hues, color. Your color is getting in your way. Okay, let me prove my point. All right, I'm gonna use Adobe Camera Raw. This is something everybody has, so this is a good example of talking about the differences between what the values are giving you and what the colors are giving you. So I'm gonna I'm in Bridge. Bridge is just a preview, and Control R for opening it up in Adobe Camera Raw. Okay, I'm gonna give it just a couple of minutes, and stop me anytime to ask questions. Okay. I'm going to give it a hot minute to open Photoshop, as I should have had it open earlier. So what we're going to do is we're going to learn to separate the values from the color and manipulate each one independently, completely independently. All right, let's see what's going on here and see what's, there it is right there in front of me. Okay. All right, so I'm going to go in and open the file manually. So Control O. I'm going to go to my presentations and we'll go down here to Hawaii Photocon. And it is listed in my, what did I have that? Was that the first one or was that the second one? I think I did the second one.
Who's the second one? Who's the
Ah, there it is. Got it. Thank you. All right. Open that one up. Let's take a look at it real quick. There it is. I don't know why it took so long to open up. It doesn't usually do that. Photoshop was already open, so I'm not quite sure what's happening. What I'm going to do is this. I'm going to reset everything. Okay, we're going to reset everything back to 0. And reset, reset, reset. Okay, there we go. I think that's looking pretty good. All right, there we go. Color is getting in our way. We've got values and we have color. So the first thing I'm going to suggest that you do, you'll notice that, and this is the same thing you're going to do in Lightroom. Lightroom is nothing more and nothing less than Adobe Camera Raw and Bridge put together in one program. So in Lightroom, just as in Adobe Camera Raw, you got your light section, right? You'll notice that your sliders are all grayscale. There's a reason for that. This is only going to touch the values. Your color right below it is only going to deal with your color. Your color is in the way. Get rid of it. Take the slider and pull it to the left, all the way to the left, to get what? Get a grayscale. So how does that, now you guys have a professional eye for photography, so how does that look to you? Okay, no, that's not an answer, black. Well, it lacks contrast, right? Right? If we look in the darker sections in here, do we see a lot of detail? No. So let's get in close. Control plus. Let's slide it on over. We're losing detail. As a matter of fact, this is very muddy. It's very, very muddy. So this technique, this is the stuff I'm teaching more in the intermediate class of Photoshop. All right. The beginning Photoshop, the 5-week beginning Photoshop class, I'm giving you a foundation in the program. We're starting with layers, we're starting with selections, color correction, tonal correction, but we get more into advanced stuff here in the intermediate class. So watch. We have our sliders here. They mean something. Now, you guys are probably thinking, well, Adobe meant to use Lightroom and Photoshop starting from the top and going downwards, right? No, don't use it that way. Expose, remember back in the day, it was expose for your shadows, print for your highlights. We're going to do something similar. Deal with your shadows first. Shadows, midtones, highlights. Shadows, midtones, highlights. Master them all. It takes time to master this. Doing black and white is difficult. Color is easy. Black and white is really difficult. It requires an eye. So watch. Let's look at the shadow sections. Let's look at these sliders. Exposure will make your shadows, midtones, and highlights dark or bright equally together. Double click it to set it back. Contrast gives me the extreme brights and darks, or brings the darks and whites so that they're flattening them out. So the whites gets darker, the shadows get brighter. What this slider is doing is ignoring your midtones and favoring your shadows and highlights. Double click it to set it back. Contrast is the devil. Never use it. You're going to find out why. So, highlights targets only your brights, right? It avoids your midtones and your shadows and only favors your brights. So in other words, if we look at that curve up there, these are your midtones, these are your shadows, these are your blacks. Midtones, highlights, whites. Shadows, midtones, highlights. Shadows, midtones, highlights. All right. So now we're going to go over to shadows. This favors the shadows. See? All right, I'm going to double click that to set that back. And I'm going to go to the whites. This is the extreme whites. And the blacks, of course, are the extreme darks. All right, now so let's go work this image. Let's target the shadows first, right? That's what I want you to pay attention to. Do your shadows first. We're going to come down here and we're going to pull out that extra midtone because it's all blocked up. Now we've got detail in those shadows. So if we take a look at everything else, right? Right? So we pulled up the detail in the shadows. In that sense, it's flattening out the image, right? That's a good thing. Now, let's get in close again. And the next thing I need to pay attention to is that now we brought up the detail in the shadows, we need to bring in detail to the opposite, the highlights. Now the highlights are they look kind of blown out. They're not, but they look a little bit blown out. So we're going to put in detail. Go to the highlights, not go to the right to blow them out. We want details. We pull it to the left to give detail. Look at that. Okay, so it's flattening it out, right? That's a good thing. All right, now I think this is going to work. I can go to my shadow. I go to my blacks and maybe pull them up a little bit. Yeah, so pull it just a little more detail in these lower areas down here. All right, this is good. Okay, this is good. Very, very flat. Now, what you're going to do is we're going to reestablish our shadow details. Okay, and we're going to use something else. We're going to get out of the light section. We're going to come right down here. we go to something called effects. I'm gonna close up the curves. I don't need it. Something called effects. We have an option in the effects. You know, you're gonna ignore the vignette. You're not gonna use the vignette. That's for, amateurs. Because when you start to work this way, you're gonna find a better way of being able to master your tones. So you're not relying on vignettes. So if I go to dehaze, what is haze, guys? What happens? Let's say we're at Death Valley and we look way back in the landscape. What happens as you get further back in the landscape? It gets hazy. What does haze do to your image? Well, say it louder so everybody can hear it.
That's the detail.
Okay, it takes out the detail. How?
The light is confusing up right now.
How? Because the light's diffusing. How? What is it doing to your image tonally? It cuts down the definition. How? Right? It does cut down the contrast, but specifically what it's doing is this. It's light molecules being bounced around, right? Those light molecules don't touch your highlights. They only touch your shadows. They bring your shadows up in brightness, but leaves your highlights alone, right? So if I go over to dehaze and say, give me some haze, watch the lower tones. Brings them up to give you haze. But if I go the opposite direction, the dehaze, we're reestablishing our black in a better way. Look. All right, we're reestablishing our darker values. So when we look around the rest of the image, look at this. Look at the detail in the highlights. We have detail on the shadow areas now. Even we go back to the window, look, that information is still there. Okay, next. Now that we've been playing around with establishing our shadows and highlights, we have sacrificed information in the midtones, which means the midtones are flatter than what they should be. That's what clarity is. Clarity is adding contrast in the midtone areas only. So if I go over to clarity and I pull to the left, softens it up. If I pull it to the right, look at that. All right, so dehaze is improving your shadows. Clarity improves your midtones. What is texture going to improve? What is texture going to improve? The shadows, midtones, or highlights? Highlights only. Highlights only. So I can take this slider, pull it to the left, see it soften, pull it to the right, look at it pop. All right, let's take a look at it overall. Control 0. Oh, what just happened? Damn it, that is not what I want to happen. All right, so I'll go, hold on a second, give me a hot second. I'm going to go back to bridge real quick. Which bridge I think is acting up a little bit, but let me go and do it this way, there. Oh, there we go. Weird. Let's do this again. Take out the saturation. Let's get in close real fast. Let's go to our shadows, pull them up, those details in there. Pull up the blacks a little bit to get a little more detail in the shadows. Now we go down to where? dehaze, increase the richness in there. Look at that. Yep, I sure did. I'm gonna go back and get it. Sorry. Highlights, come down. There we go. See that detail in that? Wonderful. All right, now we'll go back over to our effects, and we're going to go to clarity, mid-tone contrast. See that? And then your texture there. All right, now here's where it gets fun. Take a look at that. An improvement, isn't it? All right. Let's bring back the color, guys. Where was the natural location for the color sliders? Dead center, right? Watch. A little bit there. A little bit there.
Yeah.
A little bit there. Maybe a little bit more right there. What's happening? What's happening?
Got your color.
Yeah, I've got my color, but what's going on here? This is like better color, greater depth and detail. The color is stronger and better, right? Did we change saturation? No, we didn't touch saturation. We didn't touch the color. Oh, yes. Ask the question again. All right. So the question or the comment is that the blues seem to be responding better than the reds. Well, that's no big deal. I mean, we've got vibrance. If we think yeah, let's bring it up just a little bit more. Let's just bring it just a little stronger like that. Okay. There we go. You've got vibrance too, right? If you want to give it a little extra saturation, don't touch saturation. Go to your vibrance right about there. Maybe something like that. Yeah. Right. So, what I'm going to do is we're going to see a before and after. I'm going to click done. Okay. I'm going to go to this one here, which I accidentally committed. Go to right click on it, go to my develop settings, and clear the settings so it goes back to natural. So this symbol in the bottom top right hand corner is telling you that, okay, that something was done here in Adobe Camera Raw. So let's go to the first one, go to the original, and let's fill the screen with it. Hit the space bar, and that's before, and that's after. That's before, and that's after. Color gets in the way. And I'm going to give you another example. All right, let's go over here. And let's do, I think this would be a good example too. We can do something natural, something that we all can identify with, something, a shot I did in right across the Golden Gate Bridge. And let's go ahead and hit Command R. And for some reason, there we go. There we go. Now it wants to behave correctly. All right. What's the first thing we do?
Get rid of color.
Take out the color. Color is a crutch. It's a problem. Pull it out. And what are we seeing now?
Gray.
Pretty monochrome gray, but what about the detail in these trees? Is it much detail there? It's blocked up. Well, we're going to unblock it. Okay, so, all right, we're going to unblock it. Let's start with the shadows, as always. Look at the shadows. There's no detail there, but there is. There's detail there. So go to our shadows first, pull it out. See, there's lots of detail there. All right, now we can see the highlights better. They're a little cleaner, but even our highlights need to have detail in them as well. So we go to our highlights. Now, every photo is going to be different. You have to decide how much to go. See, look at this. See, we just pulled in more detail in the highlight areas. All right, so now I might want to also go to my blacks, which is the extreme shadow areas, and pull them up a little bit more, just to make sure I'm getting all the detail in the lower tones that I need. Okay, this is looking great. Now this may afford me the ability to kind of bring down exposure just a little bit, just a teensy bit, like right there. That's all I need. Now let's go down to our effects, and we're going to start with dehaze. Richen it up. Okay. Then we're going to go to clarity, pull in some details. See that? Now let's go to our highlights, and we're going to bring in the texture. Look at that. Clean. All right. Let's bring it down a little bit. Now let's play with I think I can go to my dehaze and give it a little stronger. There we go. That's it. It's a little stronger push. Shadows with details, creamy highlights with details, and a wonderful midtone. That's a full tonal range image. Now this is just a stupid example of how to use Adobe Camera Raw to improve your photos. The real example comes what you do in Photoshop using a similar technique. Let's bring in the color. A little bit there, a little bit there, a little bit there, and a little bit there. See what's happening? So with this saturation slider, what is it telling you about this file? Can anybody share with us? It's telling you that there's more information in this file. We have a lot more information in here now. So when we print these out, they're going to be beautiful. All right, so if I click done, and this one was manipulated as well. So that's the one we just did, all right? That's another one. That's another one we just did. So I'm going to go to this one here. Develop settings, clear the settings, go back to the original. Before, sorry about that. Go. So before and after. Before and after. You would have never thought to work this way because you guys were looking at all your color the entire time and didn't realize that the values were what's most important. Okay? And I'm going to show you other techniques too. Let me just do one more, just one more, for the fun of it. One more. Okay, so the question is, what are the tips for getting the right colors for the rainbow? It depends on the rainbow, right? I mean, you just But the technique would be exactly the same that I'm showing you now, because if you look at what we're doing, is did we need, we look at the original here. That's just an example. This may answer your question. What we're doing is did we need white balance for this at all? Did we use any white balance? Why?
It was high.
By dealing with your tones, it automatically does it for you. Color is in the way, guys. It's in the way. So what? Adobe gives you a little slider saying white balance, right? And that's going to solve your problem. If you do it tonally, it does it for you automatically. That should answer your question about the rainbows. The question is the proper workflow to take the color out of your photos first? My recommendation is yes, absolutely. Now understand this will take time to learn a little bit. You'll get better and better at it over time because black and white's difficult. Because you have these subtle tones in there, you got to learn to pull apart to allow them to accentuate what you're trying to say about your work. And I'll give you an example. Let's do one more, then I'm gonna give you another example. Let's take this one. I'm gonna right click on it, go to my develop settings, and clear those settings, those Adobe Camera Raw, to go back to what it was originally. I'm going to duplicate this, Control C, Control V, and I'll go to the duplicated one, which is right here, basically. And then we will Control R to go into a Camera Raw. Colors in the way. We go to the saturation and get it out. Now you look at this going, well, that's really flat and boring. It is, because that's what the raw sensor gives you. It favors the midtones over shadows and highlights to ensure you're going to have a lot of detail on your image. That's the nature of raw. So we need to reestablish. So right now the blacks are blocked up. I can barely see any detail in there. So I go to the shadows and I just pull it up. See? Now I can see them, kind of zoom in closer. Now I can see, oh, there's brick in there and there's texture in there, right? It's flat as hell, but that's a good thing. All right, now go to the highlights. So do I see there's detail in there, but it's hard to see. So go to the highlights and pull those details in, see? And then go to the whites maybe and put a little bit more in there. Really flatten it out, but that's okay. Okay, it's very flat. That's a good thing. Now we come down to our effects and we go to dehaze and we bring the darks down. Make it expressive. All right, and then clarity is going to go to the midtone contrast and we really push it in there. Wow, that's dramatic now. Go to your textures and really pull in that detail. See? All right, let's bring the color. A little bit there, a little bit there, a little bit there, a little bit there. See? We have better color, more expressive color, and did we touch the saturation? No. We dealt with the values. Annoying. Cell phones are driving me nuts. Okay, but if you feel like you want a little bit extra pop, then go to your vibrance and just push it up a little bit if you like. Okay. Now we're going to click done, and we're going to compare it before and after. So we'll go to the before, after, before, after. All right, let's show you another technique. You don't learn this technique until more of the advanced class. And we have a couple of people who have taken my beginning and intermediate class. I think I've got everything in here. Let me go check. Oh, here's another example of what we just did, just for giggles, right? So we got this one, and using the technique we just used, we went to there, right? We control every aspect of our image. So just a FYI. And the same thing here. I'll show this one just since it's already done. This is what we did in class. See? This is the way I recommend you should work. Okay, oh we go. All right, here we go. Let's get this image here. Let's open that up. Just double click, just go ahead and open it up in the Photoshop. So you want to replace that with a sky. You're not going to use sky replacement because what have you learned? Nothing. So what you're going to use is a selection technique to select everything. Now, I'm going to duplicate the layer. What's the shortcut? Control J. You learned that in the beginning class. 5 weeks long. Each class is recorded, and you will get homework. Okay. Now, there are some selection tools in Adobe Photoshop. So if I come here and say the magic wand and select it, I could do this and hold Shift key and do multiple selections, right? Or I can take off the, let's see, the contiguous, and I select the white, and I'll select the white everywhere, right? As best as it could. That's for the birds. So Control D or Command D gets rid of my selection. The key to mastering Photoshop is mastering selections. Selections and masks are exactly the same thing. That's the first thing you learn in the beginning Photoshop class. The key to mastering Photoshop is mastering selections. Why? Because Photoshop doesn't know what, when, where you want to do anything. You need to tell it what, when, where. That's what merging ants are for. That's what the selection is for. So we're going to go to our channels. We got our layers and we have our channels. And what we're going to determine is we're going to look at the values of those channels. That's a theme tonight, values. And we're going to look at the values of the channel. And we're going to determine which of these channels best separates the bridge from the background. Is it the red channel? Is it the green channel? Or is it the blue channel? Tell me. The blue. Several people said the blue. I agree. So we're going to duplicate the blue channel because we don't want to screw up our original color. The red, green, and blue, it represents the color in the image. I don't want to mess it up. So I want to create an alpha channel. I click and hold on the blue, and I drag it on top of the icon to the left side of the garbage can, and it duplicates that channel right there. Now we can work in this channel. So what I could do is give this a layer blend mode. Now this is the stuff we learn more in the advanced class, where we're going to use a layer blend mode to actually give this an effect. If I go to my image menu and go to Apply Image. What this is doing is applying this image to itself with a blend mode, which is darken, multiply, lighten. So these up here have one thing in common to one another. They maintain your blacks and avoid your midtones and whites. This does the opposite to the whites, and this is increasing the contrast. So overlay increases the contrast. That's a little bit better. I like that. I get a darker everywhere around. The background's going to stay white. So essentially what I'm going to do is use my channels to create a mask, which I can replace the background with the sky. So that's about as far as I'm going to go on this one. I'm going to click OK, and I'm going to do it again. And I'm going to go to my image menu, apply image, and this time, even though it's doing a better job, I think I'm going to use multiply because it'll give me a richer, deeper result, and it's working great. There we go. Good. I'm going to do it one more time. Image, apply image. Apply image. There we go. There it is. That looks good. So that's the last time I'm going to use multiply. I'm not. What I'm going to do next, I'm going to use a different blend mode. Image, apply image. Now I'm going to use a blend mode that's going to brighten my whites. That's be my screen. See how the whites get white brighter now? Or even dodge. Color dodge works even better. There. Nice. That's pretty clean. Now what I'm going to do is I can see some areas up here can use a little help. So I'm going to go to my brush, B for the brush, and I'm going to apply a layer blend mode to the brush. So if I come up here to the top and I'm going to select, it's my options bar, I'm going to tell my brush to have a blend mode of overlay. What that does is if I paint with black, it'll only touch the tones in the black. It won't touch the whites at all. So if I start to paint, see, it won't touch the whites at all. And I can quickly mask out this train. Look at the bottom there. Make the brush bigger. Done, done, done. Wipe it clean. Done. Oop, these areas. Well, hit the X key to switch my foreground and background color. Go to white. It doesn't touch the blacks. Isn't that cool? I'm going to go to a different brush here. I accidentally, that's the brush I want. And there we go. Clean. Pull it out. Pull it out. Okay, see this darker area in here? I want these to be darker. So hit the X key again and boom. See? Look at that. Now hit the X key again. Make sure the whites are nice and clean. Yeah, that's all looking great. Just inspecting this. Hit the X. Go to darker. X again. Make sure the whites are clean. Good. This is done. All done. There we go. All done. Pull that out. See that? Pull it out. Pull it out. Pull it out. Pull it out. Okay. Control 0. Done. She's happy. She's got a big smile on her face like, oh my gosh, if I only knew this yesterday. All right. White reveals and black conceals. I want to keep my train. I want to get rid of the sky. So I want to inverse this, right? Control I. Boom. The key to mastering Photoshop is mastering selections. Selections, masks, and channels are all one and the same thing. Period. All right, let's prove that. Here is a channel. It's an alpha channel, but it says this channel. If I want to select from this, hold the control key down and click on the little image. Boom. There's my marching ants. All right, now we go back to RGB layers. Go back to your layers. And now I want to give this a layer mask. The layer mask is going to honor this. I'm going to turn off the one on the bottom so you can see the effects. The layer mask is going to honor my selection. And when I click the layer mask, Boom.
Hmm.
Clean. Clean. Now you can composite anything behind it and it will be happy. In fact, we'll go do it. We'll go back into Bridge. Let's see if I got a clouds in here somewhere. Yep, we got some clouds in here. Let's use that one. Pull it on out and just drop it right on in. Come on, drop in there. What's the matter with you? It's telling me I can't do it. Yes, you can. All right, fine. Bridge is going to be a pain a little bit here, so let me just go. Did it open up already? Nope, that's the old one. I'm going to close that one out for the time being. And let me go get Bridge again. File menu, browse and Bridge. Fine. It's going to be tough, huh? There we go. All right, so it is freezing up on me for some reason, and I don't know why. So we're going to have to do it this way. Control O is more than one way to skin a cat. And we'll go get another. Pull this down over here. Presentations, Hawaii Photocon. And I think I've got that there. We'll go grab one of these. So how about if I grab that one there? There we go. All right, I'm going to grab this here. V key. Slide and drag it on over. Wow, Photoshop is misbehaving. So before I lose anything, because I'm getting nervous, I'm going to save this. It could be just the graphics card. So I'm going to put this in the 6 tutorials folder. Save it. And I want to make sure this is selected there, and I'm going to save it. How much time do I have? Just asking. No one's answering. How many more minutes? 10? Oh, good. All right. So I'm just going to close these out and open them up again. All right, there it is. I'm going to open it up again. And I will go open the clouds. Photoshop will do this sometimes. Usually it has to do with the graphics card. And with my move tool selected, I should be able to drag this on over. And what's strange is it's not doing it. Let me try it this way. If I just drag it this way. So it is having a problem. That's what I'm doing. Okay, I'll tell you what. We'll do the Command A, copy, go that route. All right, I'm going to dim that down. And I noticed something at the bottom of my screen is, see, Photoshop is not, I'm going to close out Bridge. All right, there we go. Now, Control V, that worked. Okay. You should be able to drag and drop it, but it's just a glitch in Adobe software. I'm going to bring this down beneath the other one. There it is. See? That's what I've been trying to show you. All right. So if you understand your values, you understand how and why Photoshop works, you can be an artist with your work and not just rely on taking pictures and using sliders to make them better. You can do more, much, much more. Questions?
Where's the dragon?
You don't get a dragon. That costs extra. What was that? Luminar is designed to do what it does now. The Luminar, is that the one that does mostly black and white values, right? I mean, you don't know.
I'm just using your example to see, do you think Luminar, which did
Luminar doesn't have the power of Photoshop.
auto enhance, they could do something
Yeah, Luminar is kind of designed to behave the way Adobe Camera Raw and Lightroom behaves.
I
It
mean,
does.
are you familiar with them now?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, I am
I'm just
familiar.
wondering because I play a little with Luminar and I just saying, I don't think it's precisely.
What what was that? No.
That's right. No, I'm just saying, it might come similar.
Photoshop is basically designed to give you complete control over every aspect of your image.
Something similar on this.
Well,
Without all this,
yeah.
all this, involvement, do you think Luminar will something similar? Quicker.
Does it do still, if Luminar does layers and selections, well, sure, why not?
Yeah.
Right? So was that helpful? All right.
AI gonna do everything automatically?
Oh, okay. So the question is, does AI with AI around, is that going to in this going to matter anymore? Yeah.